Here are some additional math tips that we will be using and demonstrating and talking about in later videos, but I want to just collect them here. So break questions into pieces. Again, I mentioned this, just it's so important. So many students try to read the whole thing and try to understand the whole thing at once. That's too confusing, even for a strong math student. In fact, a strong math student is often a strong math student because they do this. They don't try to understand the whole thing in one go. They break it down. Whole questions are indigestible. You're not going to be able to swallow the whole thing and make sense of it. So break it down. Think with your pencil. Write and draw everything you can. I mentioned this earlier. Again, it bears repeating because you want to put stuff down on paper. This kind of connects to the third one. There's no reason to do things in your head if you have a calculator. And if you don't have a calculator, still, there's no reasons to do things in your head. There's no reason to do things in your head besides, I guess, saving time if you have a paper and pencil. As long as your time is good, and it should be if you practice and get used to this, you should be doing stuff on paper, because doing stuff in your head is where mistakes begin to happen. So give yourself the benefit of the doubt. Don't think, even if you're a good math student, this goes out to you as much as anybody else, even if you're a strong math student, don't think that your strength will save you, because if you just drop a negative or if you add wrong in your head or whatever it might be, that can lead to problems. So do problems on paper, do them in the calculator. Take advantage of multiple choice. Eliminate choices. You'll see me do this in the test. Before we even get the final answer, I'll start eliminating choices that can't work. It just helps you narrow down, and worst case scenario, you've just got a better guess. And then finally, test answers, and we're going to talk about this in the plugging in video coming up shortly. Use your calculator effectively, and by this I basically mean be comfortable with it. You do not want to go into the test with a calculator you've never used before. It's a disaster. If you're spending time looking for the square root button, that's valuable time you're wasting on something that's pointless. So make sure you're comfortable with the calculator, whether it's graphing or it's scientific. It doesn't so much matter. Through these tests, I'm going to be using a scientific calculator. Graphing calculator is just not really that useful. I mean, there are some circumstances where it could be, but it's just not something you need. If you've got it, that's fine, but just be comfortable with it, no matter what calculator you've got. Triangulate to the answer. And what I mean by this is, let's say here's the answer to your question, and let's say you get that through some method. How you triangulate to that answer is, when you've got time later to review, if you can come up with a second or even a third method, and all those 2 or 3 methods get you to the same answer, you know you're good, right? I mean, 99.9% chance you're correct. Same thing if you plug in your answer into the original question and you get something that's consistent, it's just a really good sign. So if you're having problems with making silly mistakes, making errors in calculations, whatever it might be, the more you can triangulate on these questions and solve them in different ways, the better things are to go for you. And in these questions, I'm going to talk about, for certain problems, different ways to approach it. You don't need to know necessarily every way, but the more methods you understand, the stronger you'll be, the more diverse your toolbox will be, and the more likely you'll do really well on all the questions. And then finally, is your answer reasonable? So if you're looking for, if there's a number that's 20% less than another number, if your answer is bigger than the other number, it doesn't make any sense. If you get an answer that's like 10,460,000, is that too big, or is that just right, or is that even maybe too small, right? If you get 1/2, is that too small, right? Think about reasonability and think if that answer makes any kind of sense based on the scenario of the problem. Okay, let's talk about a very specific strategy now called plugging in.